Yeah, yeah, I think we can still working. Okay. No, yeah, I think we can pray. Yeah, pray. We say thank you, Lord, for bringing us back again. As we learn, may your presence be with us. Let your Holy Spirit lead us, pour upon us your latter rain, so that we may understand the events we are living in and Sunday. This is my humble prayer. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. Okay, so there is also a live stream on Facebook. Yeah, people can follow on Facebook. Yeah. Um, so we were looking at agitation, and we tried to define it. We tried to define agitation, what it means, and we saw that the agitation, it like on this diagram, we have A, B, C, and we saw that C is an event which is coming, and the agitation will be B, like some sort of a warning that something is coming. Yeah, and we use Matthew chapter 25. You can say that message that the bridegroom is coming is an agitation. Yeah. We just use that as a parable. Yeah. So, and that this agitation, some say there is that awakening that takes place to the danger and what is coming. Yeah. And some says like, so, and we listed some characteristics of like agitation. And one of it, we said like it's something pointing to something that is coming. Okay. So that agitation is pointing to something that is coming. And someone said it's a message. Yeah, it would be a message which can be internal or external by external prophets, the journalists, yeah, events, or an internal message which awakens the people to what is happening, which is showing what is coming. Yeah. Then And another characteristic, we saw that it is similar to the thing that is coming. So the agitation must be similar to what is coming. If what is coming is a train, the agitation must be similar to that. Yeah. If you give, if the agitation is about the coming of something else, then that will be a false agitation. When the actual event happens, you miss it. Yeah. And someone says it's a harbinger. And the harbinger is just something that is pointing to something. Yeah, the real thing. Yeah. So that is an agitation. Yeah, of course, there is more to that. So now we went to this line of 144,000 and we are looking at the Sunday law. And if we're looking at the Sunday law, we saw that 2001 to the Sunday law, that is the period of the agitation of the Sunday law. Yeah. And we forgot one concept. The Sunday law, where? Is it in the world or in the USA? This Sunday law, 2001 to the Sunday law, is an agitation of the Sunday law. Which Sunday law? The world or USA? It's a USA. So this is, we might say, to be more accurate, this is a national USA. So definitely the agitation from 2001 to the Sunday law, the focus is the USA. Does that make sense? Yeah. Then we zoomed that history from 2001 to the Sunday law, and that is the line at the bottom. We saw that in this history, it's an agitation of the coming Sunday law. And there is 2019, which is an increase of knowledge or a concord, 2021, which is a Boston, meaning this is the point in which that agitation is fully formalized. And from 2021 up to the Sunday law, this is the period of the agitation that the Sunday law is coming. Therefore, 2021 is the waymark that we are saying it's an agitation for the Sunday law. Yeah, the agitation is fully formalized for the Sunday law. If 2021 is an agitation for the Sunday law, meaning it needs to have the characteristic of what we said the agitation is. It must be something that is pointing to the Sunday law that is coming. Yeah, and if it's a message, it both internal and external. That message in the movement or by external prophets, it must be focusing on issues which we are going to see at the Sunday law. Then also, another one is that it is similar to the real event. So 2021 must be similar to the real event, which is the Sunday law. Yeah, and someone says harbinger. Therefore, 2021 is the harbinger of the Sunday law. Yeah. So with that in mind, we can see that 2021 is a window to the future. And the future is the Sunday law, which is the national Sunday law. This is the national Sunday law. Yeah, 2021. Yeah, and what we need to see is 2021, these are events which needs to be in the USA because that Sunday law that is coming, it's a national Sunday law where in the USA. Yeah. So by looking at 2021, we are going to have a glimpse of what we should be expecting at a Sunday law. Yeah. I think we all remember, like Elder Chase said, 2021, is it January 6th, is the glimpse into the future, something like that. It's like within the same concept. Mm. So now, due to that, we need to look at 2021 and see what we should expect to take place at the Sunday law. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in like 20, I'll just draw a separate line for 2021 and the Sunday law. So I'll draw a line. Okay. So that line, this one is 2021, which it's the midnight cry or the agitation. Then this is the national Sunday law. So what I've done, zoom this history. Okay. So these two waymarks, they need to be brought side by side to compare and contrast them, because this is an agitation. It's pointing to the National Sunday Law. So we need to look into 2021. We need to look into 2021. So I think we'll start to look at 2021. So 2021 starts so good, so interesting. It starts with, we see there's January 6th. And what is January 6th? It's a failed coup, isn't it? You might say a failed coup. So January 6th is a failed coup. It's a failed coup. Yeah, January 6th. It's a very important event, January 6th. And we might be tempted to say January 6th, a failed coup, then Sandelo, successive coup. You see, this is like what it is pointing to. But we fully need to understand what was taking place at January 6th and the response. Yeah, we need to see that. And we have to see whether the the Trump after this they were planning to come and steal to conduct a coup in 2024. Yeah, we have to see that. Yeah, and if we can see that story that that is what they are planning to do, that is the response to January 6th. It's for them to plan very well now to come and do a coup. If you can trace it, like, Yep. But I'm suggesting we have to look at what happened at January 6th and the the events that followed after January 6th in 2021. Yeah. So that we have a clear understanding of the events that were taking place. Yeah. So there is that January 6th. And the January 6th, we see that it was a certification of the results of Joe Biden. And we saw that the mega movement were not satisfied of the results of the elections in 2020. Therefore, this was their last attempt for them to fight for Donald Trump to get power by force. They thought now they have to engage themselves. Before January 6th, the people were not engaging themselves. Why? Why the people decided, they didn't do anything at electoral college votes. They didn't do anything. But they decided on January 6th. And that was the final. Once that passes, there is no change. But why did they decide on January 6th? The people to involve themselves. Joseph.
The vice president is the one responsible for signing with
Yeah,
hope in that report was disaster.
if they had hope in the vice president, why did they want to forcefully involve themselves? Because they would have just seated.
They saw that it's not doing what they want to do.
Okay. And why didn't they do that before? Like before January 6th, because they were like electoral college votes, they are also important, but they didn't do anything. I mean, the base, like the people, the voters themselves to engage into that act. Why didn't they respond before January? Because, from November, there's December there, and things are happening and they are not responding. But on January 6th, we have the people themselves, the voters, the base involving themselves. Why? And even Trump called them to involve themselves. Why?
that was the last step if it's not saying it's going for
Okay, yes, it's a last step, but why not? Why involving now the people themselves, the voters? Joseph.
because they have seen that the institution means they are hope that can do that. They were not doing what they was, so they wanted to do it by their own.
No. So Joseph is saying because they saw that the institutions have failed them and now they wanted to do it for themselves. Okay. Who is the institution? No. Like I'll give my opinion on it. Before January 6th, from after the elections of 2020, and the base, the Republicans, especially the voters, the mega movement, they were not happy of the elections. But they still believed that they are Republicans within the Republican Party, their leaders, they are going to do what is needed within that period to correct the mistake. And what happened? Did the Republican leaders do that? They didn't. Yeah, starting from the states that were so consequential, Trump tried to force them, they didn't follow that. Then they thought the courts can do something. Did they succeed to the courts with those conservative judges? They didn't succeed. So they were now very, very sure that we can no longer trust our what? Our leaders, the people we elected, we can't trust them. And Trump knew that. And it's why Trump now had to now involve the grassroots, the real voting base of the Republicans to stand up and defend the elections. And we have, when those people stood on January 6th, now they are coming up because the people that they elected, whom they thought they are there to fight for their cause, to protect their votes, they betrayed them and they stood up now. Yeah, and their even last hope probably was even now that January 6th, maybe the Mike Pences and others, they will decide to change their mind. Yeah, of which it didn't go that way, even them were disappointed. Yeah, so that is what happened on why we have the people um, doing that. So let's read something. Let me try and share something that we should read. Okay. So I'm reading here. Yeah, I think I'm quoting from a book, which is Finish What We Started. So it says, the shapes and methods of Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election results are now well documented in hundreds of pages of congressional testimony and criminal indictments, leading to trials in Washington and Atlanta. But, so the first part shows that it's well documented with evidence what Trump did in trying to overturn the elections. It's all documented. Yeah. But in the mega movement, that same sequence of events has taken on an entirely different significance. So when it comes to the mega movement, the very things to them, it means something else, and it's very what? Important. Yeah. So when you look at January 6th and everything associated with it, it's a very important event to the mega movement. Not in the way like others view January 6th. January 6th is important for everyone. But for the mega, it's very important in a certain way. They are going to explain. In this account, Trump came up short not because he was at odds with the law. So Trump failed to overturn the elections, not that he was against what? The law, that it's the law that prevented Trump from overturning the election. You are getting the point. Says to the mega, that's not how they view it. The failure to January 6th is not that Trump was against the law and the law prevented him from doing that. Yeah, they say Trump came up short not because he was at odds with the law, the Constitution, basic decency, or empirical reality. So they are not saying he failed because of we might say, the Sixth Kingdom. The Constitution, the law, yeah, and just the reality. The cause of his defeat was being narrowly thwarted at almost every step by fellow Republicans. To the mega movement, who caused Republican to fail, who caused Trump to fail at January 6th? It's the Republicans. Then it says the clerk in Antrim County, Michigan, who said the incorrect vote tallies reported on election night were just an honest mistake, quickly fixed, was a Republican. You know, this clerk, there was some mistakes in one of the like counting whatever machine. And this clerk, instead of saying this mistake is a proof enough that the elections were what? Stolen. What did this clerk say? The clerk said this was just a minor mistake, which was quickly what? Fixed. And that clerk is who? A Democrat or a Republican? A Republican. Number two, the Secretary of State in Georgia, who refused Trump's demand to find 11,780 votes, enough to reverse the outcome, was a Republican. So in Georgia, you know, Trump fought that governor that you have to find these missing votes. Once that governor finds those missing votes, Georgia would have gone to who? Donald Trump. Did that Republican obey the command? Refused. The secretary, then the county supervisor in Maricopa County, Arizona, who screened Trump's scores and certified Biden's win, were Republicans. So the one who certified that Biden won Arizona was a Republican. And these are the states which decided the elections of 2020. And who are making possible, like it's Biden won, it's the Republicans. Trump failed. This is what now the mega movement thinks. Trump failed to pressure every House Republican to object to the Electoral College votes on January 6th. And he got only a handful of senators. So to Trump didn't manage to convince those Republicans in the House or in the Senate to object the what? To refuse the electoral college votes. Those Republicans refused. Only few in the Senate. And even Trump's own vice president refused to help him block the official certification in Congress. Who else? The vice what? President. As close as he came to keeping himself in power. He came up short only because of uncooperative members of his own party. So you can see what's happening in the mega movement. This failed coup, who is to be blamed? Is it Democrats? Republicans. We have Republicans, instead of siding with Donald Trump, they abandoned Donald Trump. And this is even why you see even the people, when the people like arose like that voting base on January 6th, they have already noticed that what is happening to the people they appointed in the Republican Party. Are they doing what they are supposed to do? They are not. Then the people involve themselves, but it failed. And now they are looking for reasons for the failure. Whilst others are saying the reason for this failure is due to the strength of the institution of the USA, and also to recognize that this was against the law of the land. Yeah. To the mega movement, they saw that the failure for January 6th is due to the unfaithful Republicans. Yeah. So this failed coup. So we have the mega. So what we can see first, now, honestly, for sure, this coup, who prevented the coup? Is it the Democrats? The Democrats were helpless in this situation. It's not even Biden. Biden was just there waiting for what is going to happen. That's not the major thing that happened that Biden prevented the January 6th. It's not Biden. Yeah, that certification of Biden, Biden was just there helpless. But what we can see is it's the Republicans who prevented January 6th coup. Yeah. So that is, I think, the one point that we need to see. So So Republicans prevented January 6th. This is very true because these Republicans, they said Trump is not bigger than the Constitution. If we have been given a decision to choose between Trump and the Constitution, what are we going to choose? The Constitution. Isn't that what Mike Pence did? Yes. They rejected the king and chose the Constitution. And that is so Republican played a major role. Then the mega movement saw it and they blamed the failure on who? Republicans. So the mega blamed the failure on Republicans. On Republicans. So this is what is taking place. Yeah. So let's continue. Let me read another quote for you. No. Then there's Dan. You know, Dan is the one who is going to come up with a strategy to solve the mistakes that happened on January 6th. Yeah. Now, this Dan also noticed what happened. So Dan said, Dan never doubted the election was stolen. Everybody and their dog knew it, he said. These are deep, deep mega. Yeah. They believed the elections was what? Stolen. Were they surprised? No. Because, you know, the mega movement believes the Democrats always cheat. But they say it's not a problem. If our party is functioning, it can prevent the what? The cheating. So for them, it was not a surprise that the Democrats have stolen the 2020 what? Elections. He expected nothing less from the Democrats. But the problem was the Republicans who were letting them get away with it. So they know, like, anyway, we are not surprised. These people always what? Cheat. Yeah. But what is the big problem? The people are supposed to stop them. Who are those? The Republicans. They let them steal the elections. Then they continued. Danny watched with disdain as the Republican county supervisor in Maricopa County similarly rejected all the alleged irregularities and certified the elections, certified the results. So Dan was so sad that those Republican counties in Maricopa, they rejected all those allegations that the elections are not what? Okay, there are some irregularities. Those Republican county supervisors rejected those notions. Then the Republican governor of Arizona signed the certification, stopping momentarily to literally silence a call to his cell phone from Donald Trump himself. So Danny is saying he was so mad when he saw the Republican governor of Arizona, who was even called by the king, Trump himself, just after the call, neglecting what Trump demanded and certifying the what? The results. And Danny was so mad at that. And the Republican state legislators, what did they do? Dan emailed every single one, telling them to reject this election and appoint their own electors for Trump. Dan argued that the Constitution gave legislatures the exclusive and unlimited power to regulate elections. In this election, officials all around the country had started making accommodation on account of the pandemic, like drop boxes and drive-through voting. In Dan's view, those accommodations made without express authorization from the state legislatures had been illegal. So the state legislature should declare the election was fraudulent and assert their power to decide the outcome as the people's representatives. So Dan said he even emailed all those state legislators to tell them that they are supposed to reject these what? Elections. Because some of the methods which were used in voting due to COVID were not like methods authorized in the USA. Therefore, they were supposed to use that to reject those what? Those elections. And once they do that, they are doing, once they reject those elections, it says, and assert their power to decide the outcome as the people's representatives. Once they do that, who are they representing? They are acting on behalf of who? The people that appointed them, the mayor and others. They didn't even need to give a reason, Dan thought. They could have said it was because they would have frosted flakes instead of carrots for the breakfast. It was solely up to them under the Constitution. So this is Danny saying, these elections, it was up to them, the people who have put in offices, to overturn the elections. Only these Republican state legislators were either too scared or too stupid to go through with it. What was the sin of these Republicans? Either they were what? Scared, or they are what? Stupid. These were the rhinos, the fake Republicans that Dan's precinct strategy was meant to eliminate. Instead of doing the one thing they could do to change the outcome, Arizona Republicans were wasting time talking about audits and lawsuits and impeaching the governor. Dan Finchen, a member of the Arizona House of Representatives and of the Oath Keepers, gave an interview on the podcast he listened to, hosted by Steve Bannon. Fitcherman was saying he would bring Vice President Mike Pence an official finding of fraud as a basis for rejecting Arizona electors when Congress met in Washington on January 6. It sounded like a pointless stand. Dan messaged Bannon to tell him he wasn't asking the right question. Bannon told him, fine, come on the show and explain it. So we can see that these Republicans who were blamed, they call them the rhinos, and they are saying they are not actually true Republicans, they are fake Republicans. Because true Republicans were supposed to overturn what? The elections. So these Republicans, they are called the rhinos. I think you see it in news, eh? You see it in news, the rhinos. Yeah. So the rhinos, if you want to, let me check for you like what that means. The rhinos, or if anyone can explain what the rhinos mean. Atang, or Atang, Rocky, or Letang. Do you have an idea who the rhinos are?
Yeah, the rhino stands for Republican in name only.
Yes.
Those who are
You
not
get
necessarily following the Trump agenda, they call them the rhinos.
Yes, you get the point. Yeah, so these are Republicans whom they are saying they are just Republicans by name only. Yeah, meaning fake Republicans because they are not following the agenda of Donald Trump. Yeah. And it's those, the so-called rhinos, who actually prevented January 6th. And the mega movement recognized it. And they blamed the rhinos for not taking the January 6th the election, overturning the election. So this is what is taking place in 2021. Yeah. So it's not really about the Democrats, because the mega movement is done away with the Democrats. They know that they don't even trust the Democrats, but at least they know that if we Republicans, we can unite ourselves in fulfilling the Trump's agenda, what will happen? Can have these elections, we can overturn the elections. But some of the Republicans refuse to bow down to Donald Trump. And when they did that, the mega movement saw them as the betrayers. And they call them fake Republicans. Yeah. Yeah. So is that clear? Rhinos, Republicans in name only. Yeah, getting the point. Meaning you are not a full Republican to fulfill the Republican agenda. In this context, the mega agenda. So you are just a Republican in name only. So this is what is going on within the Republican Party. And if you think they are such, so I think when we start to bring in the mega movement, yeah, and with the studies which are taking place, we understand that is the Sunday Law movement, isn't it? The mega movement, it's a Sunday Law movement. And what has happened on January 6th, the Sunday Law movement fails. And the failure was prevented them from taking power. Republicans have actually prevented the Sunday Law movement. And this Sunday Law movement also sees it and says, the reason why we have failed is due to the rhinos. And this is the reason why we have failed. Those Republicans who are not committed to mega, that's what they said. I think it was a very good period. We saw that later Trump was impeached, though acquitted by the Senate. This time, most Republicans, about, is it 13 Republicans, voted to what? Impeach Donald Trump. It was a moment like Donald Trump became so weak. And even when he was leaving, going to Mar-a-Lago, very weakened. And for a moment, we thought now this is done. Trump is what? It's gone. This is the end. And even within the Republican Party, they celebrated that this is the defeat of MAGA. MAGA's been defeated. And MAGA recognized all that. Now, I want us to see what they are going to do about it. So we have seen, one, the Republicans prevented the coup, the rhinos. Then the MAGA recognized that we have been betrayed. And this is why the coup what? Failed. And they even identify the people who have done that. It's the rhinos. Yeah. Those, the establishment Republicans. It's them who has done that. And now we should see what they would do about it. And that is where January 6th is so significant to the Republican, the MAGA. Yeah. And the MAGA. And I think that is what we were meant to see taking place. Yeah. That is what we are meant to see taking place in 2021, related to January 6th. Yeah. So, and why? Because why our focus was supposed to be that? Because when you are talking of the Sunday Law movement, the Sunday Law movement or the Seventh Kingdom, is it coming from the Bidens? No. It's where? It's Republican. Therefore, the events which started to happen in 2021 to the Republicans are very important. Because come the Sunday Law, it starts from those events. Yeah. Yeah. So we are not saying that on the Democrats, there are some studies where we would focus on what's happening with the Democrats and all that. Yeah. But when you are talking of the Sunday Law, which is coming, like, yeah, and where it's coming from, I think this is stream, this direction is very, very important to take note of, which if you follow those studies, maybe of Henry Clay, the Whig Party, you can focus much on the Democrats and see even like their failure and all that. But on this, so we see what is happening with the Republicans. Now we need to see the response that MAGA is going to give to the Republicans. Yeah. So I think so what we can see within the Republican Party, we have two factions. So I would say this is the Republican. There are two factions. One, the rhinos. Number two, the MAGA. Who won on January 6th? Is it the rhinos or the mega? The rhinos won. This was the day for the rhinos. Yeah. And this is why we see now, for a moment, Trump's position within the Republican Party was shaken. Yeah, was shaken. The rhinos won. They proved that we are still in charge of the what? Of the party. Of the party. Our loyalty is not to Trump, but to the Constitution and the principles of the Republican Party. That's what happened. The rhinos won. Yeah. And the mega, that was a big issue for mega. Now, I want us to see what the mega movement will do now. The response. And that response would start in 2021. So let me share a different screen. Okay. So this is the response they are going to give. The suggestion that Trump did not already fully dominate the Republican Party is surely confusing to non-Trump supporters. Yeah. So those who think, if you say to people that by the time you are reaching January 6th, Donald Trump didn't dominate the Republican Party fully. Those who don't follow Trump, they won't actually believe that that's the case because they think Trump controls the entire political party. That's what they think. Trump controls the entire political party. But that's not the case. Hadn't Republican politicians spent years contorting themselves to conform to his whims and pretending not to have seen his latest tweet? But from the perspective of the mega movement, weak Republicans were the clear culprit for selling out Trump when everything was on the line. So someone who is not part of the Republican, who is not following the Republican, would think every Republican is in obedience to who? Donald Trump. But the mega movement knew that there are some Republicans whom they call the weak Republicans, the rhinos, where in most important events, which are so beneficial to the mega movement, they betray who? Trump. So we can see that 2021 showed that Trump doesn't control the Republican Party 100%. There are some of those people, and the mega knew who would do what? Who betray Trump. And January 6th was an example of those Republicans who betrayed. His supporters learned from this shortcoming and organized to address it. So they learned. There are those people. And they organized to what? Address it. They decided they had to take over the party apparatus from the ground, beginning with the smallest, lowliest units of political organizing, the precincts, and building up from there to districts, counties, and states, all the way to the Republican National Committee. This plot, known as the precinct strategy, proved effective in that it forced out Republicans who were anything less than completely faithful to Trump and his election denial. At last, the far-right extreme, no longer fringe, captured the institution that had long excluded it, the Republican Party itself. So the MEGA came up with a solution. What's the solution? We need to take over the what? The Republican Party. That's taking place in 2021. And will take over the Republican Party. There is Dan, I mentioned Dan. We'll read, like after January 6, January 20 there, the voting base of the Republican, they didn't even know the way forward. Then they started talking about the third party. Then Dan came in with a solution. And that solution was, we need to take over. The method you have been trying cannot work. And that method is trying to take over the Republican from top to what? Bottom. Danny explained that can't work. There is where everyone doesn't focus, and that is from the bottom. And if you take the pyramid of the Republican, at the bottom, there are those committee, which are called the precinct committee. And they are neglected, but they are very influential because they are the ones in charge of looking for elections, during elections, votes and all that, and also mobilizing the voters. And also they elect these committees and the leaders of these committees, and those elect the others, and those elect the others. So once you change the bottom, this bottom will be able to elect people who believes what the bottom what believes in. And these people appoint others like them. And at the end, the entire thing will what? Change. That is the strategy. I think it's a good strategy. When you want to cut a tree, you go to the what? To the roots. Yeah. So, so the MEGA, this is in 2021. They are going to respond with a strategy, which is the precinct strategy. Yeah. Oh. So the MEGA will actually respond so the MEGA will respond with a strategy which is called the precinct. Precinct, if I'm not mistaken. Strategy. The precinct strategy. And this strategy, the MEGA is for them to take the Republican Party from the bottom up. So, to take control of the Republican Party. It's fine. Republican Party from bottom to top. Yeah. So this strategy will be something like this. If this is the pyramid of the Republican Party, below this pyramid, there are what they call the precinct committees. So the strategy is going up here, starting with these committees. And these committees, they are vacant, most of the seats were vacant because very few Republicans pays attention to them. So what this done says, if these committees can be filled up with mega, what will happen? Then these committees can start transforming the base up to what? The top. By the time maybe the rhinos realize they no longer have what? Power. Yeah. So this is the strategy. And this strategy, you can see this mega movement, you might call it if you want, this is the ideology, like a religion. Are we getting the point? But this religion needs what? For it to work. It needs a party that it can fully what? Control and occupy. And that part will be used to take over the USA. And what these Republicans rejected on January 6th was that mega says, no, we don't want you. Then those of the mega, they see that we have an obstacle. Even if we try to take over the US, as long as we have these rhinos, we won't do anything much. Like what happened during the first presidency of Trump. We saw that it was hard. There was no such unity. Trump was blocked by these so-called rhinos. He didn't even know, he even appointed them in his cabinet. They were against him. So now, they know that if we have to take over the USA, we need a party. That is the mega. And that party we need, it's a Republican. What is the problem with the Republican? They are these rhinos. They prevented us from taking power in 2020, January 6th. So they are going to come up with this strategy. And the purpose of this strategy is to deal with the rhino so that the Republican Party is fully mega. So that when you see the Republican Party, we are not seeing the party with the rhinos, the mega. You are just seeing what? Mega. And this is the strategy they came up with in 2021. So you can see what is the Sunday Law movement is doing. What is it doing in 2021? It's dealing with what? The Republican Party. It's dealing with the Republican Party. Yeah. So let me try and read another quotation for more information. Maybe next we'll talk about the voters, not now, maybe. Yeah. So it says, for 3 hours every week, and 2 on Saturdays, Bannon and his guests developed a canon of stolen election myth. This is Steve Bannon. We know Steve Bannon right from 2014 is there. He's like one of the architects, the chief architects of the mega movement. And these people, they are highly religious. Steve Bannon is a Catholic. Yeah, we know. And if you are reading books of Steve Bannon, they feel like you are reading some conservative Adventist pastors or maybe evangelist books. Very apocalyptic. Yeah. Because they understand that this war we are fighting is a holy war. The Steve Bannon. Yeah. So Steve Bannon is the one who is like this is developing this canon of stolen election myth. The fraud was just the first part. So when you talk of the stolen elections, the Steve Bannons who are also in charge of that ideology, that the elections were what? Stolen. So when they are saying the fraud was just the first part, the Democrats always tried that. It was a given. The second part, the crucial step, was the stab in the back. That is Steve Bannon. Says about these elections, there are two things. One is the fraud. Who plays the fraud? Democrats, they steal. But the second part, which is very crucial, is the stab in the what? In the back. When you use that phrase, stab in the back, who stabs you in the back? Your friend. And Steve Bannon is saying there are some who stabbed us in the back. And he says the Republican election officials and the state legislators who knew the election was stolen and let the Democrats get away with it. All the turnout of 2020 had, as often foretold, done the preliminary work of undermining institutions and creating a receptive to a new faith. Now it was up to Bannon to transform the defeat of January 6 into the galvanizing moment for the next phase of the mega movement. You see now where Bannon is going to come in. He's going to turn a defeat into a what? A victory for the mega movement. For the mega movement. And he has mentioned that the problem is the Republicans who now stabbed us in the back. So can you see that without January 6, you don't have Republicans organizing like the Steve Bannons, the Dan and others organizing them, that mega movement with full force to now try and do what to the Republican Party? Take it all. January 6 is what now exposed the Republican Party that actually the mega movement doesn't what? Control it fully. And as long as things are like that, are you going to have a Sunday law? No. You're not going to have a Sunday law. This is why now Steve Bannon is there, the chief strategist. Yeah, it's very important. You know, in the Midnight Cry, he's among the most influential people, Steve Bannon. Yeah, and you know that Steve Bannon was called by Trump to come again to help him in 2020 elections, but he refused because he saw what was happening with the Trump, that they were losing. He refused, and yeah. So it's there. So we can see what Bannon will be, this person now who is going to be in charge of like turning the loss of Mega on January 6 into a victory, which is the next, they are calling it the next phase of the mega movement. Yeah. They continue. Bannon wasn't messing around with basement kids anymore. The mega movement had matured. His audience now was grayer, people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. A lot of empty nesters and retirees, but with a similar need for connection. Yes. So similar need for connection and perhaps even memories of the gentler time. He was speaking to people who didn't look like radicals and certainly didn't think of themselves as extremists. It was the world around them that had lost its mind. The social critic Christopher Latch, another Bannon influence, had written about this beginning in the 60s, how liberalism was a failure because people looked at the world that freedom got them and decided they didn't want it. It sucked. Modern life was so fragmented, so disembodied, so alienating. Dealing with that alienation was what War Room was all about. So, War Room is a podcast of Steve Bannon where he shares their ideologies for MEGA. And he created that after January 6th, he started, giving, even after the election, trying to mobilize Republicans, the MEGA movement. And these people, they are people who looked normal, responsible people, who think the world around them has gone what? Mad. With what? Liberalism. Their enemies, liberalism. And how to correct the madness that was going on in the world. Some WhatsApp number so that you just copy and paste here. Yeah. And the War Room, the podcast of Steve Bannon, was made to address that. Oh. Yeah. So, and it continues. Bannon will say, action, action, action. Bannon would say, this is all about your urgency. He was offering his listeners a path to self-empowerment and in the dark days that followed January 6. Trump supporters were starving for a sense of direction, a suggestion of where to go next, an idea of what to do with the feelings of shock and disaffection. So here is the mega movement after January 6. They are shocked because they have lost. Do they know the direction? They don't. They are even dissatisfied by the Republicans who didn't do the job they wanted them to do. Here's the mega movement is so shaken, they don't even know what to do. And Bannon is there, encouraging them, trying to offer them hope of the next phase that they are supposed to do. And Bannon will come up with an idea. One idea that was now generating buzz with Trump supporters was starting a third party, a patriot party, to fight for Trump in all the ways the Republican Party had so clearly failed. That is what some of the mega supporters started saying. Since the Republican Party has failed us, what are we supposed to do? Let's form a what? A third party. You see that taking a party for the mega movement is very important. Without a party, can they do anything? They can't. So after January 6, now the issues are, since the Republican Party has failed us as mega, let's form a what? Another party. The party which will only be dedicated to who? Donald Trump. Like with what happened with the media, social media. If Facebook, Twitter has failed us, let's open our own what? Social media. They opened, it's called the Truth Social. And Trump is the lead of it. So even at this moment, they are saying, let's open. Some are saying, let's open for a third party. And with a name, a Patriot Party. But the sources of this proposal was Trump himself. Trump himself, who meant it as a threat to the Republican senators about to try his impeachment. But Trump's rank and file supporters were getting carried away with the third-party idea. So it's Trump who started that issue. He was not serious. He was threatening those Republicans who wanted to impeach him. That if you go ahead, I'll open what? The third party. Meaning all those, his voters are going to go with him, which will threaten the position of the Republican Party. He was just threatening them. But some of his supporters took it serious, that I think that is the only way. Let's open a what? The third party. Now, Steve Bannon will come in. And Bannon needed to put a stop to it. He knew a third party would be a fool's errand, a waste of everyone's time and money. Even Ted Roosevelt couldn't win back the White House on a third-party ticket. All third parties did was help elect someone from the two major parties. George Wallace helped give you Richard Nixon. Ross Perot got you Bill Clinton. Bannon had a better idea. So Bannon would say, saw it that in America, that's impossible. You can't win election through a what? A third party. Because even the famous Roosevelt failed to win elections on the third party ticket. All third party candidates, they only help someone in either the Democrat Party or the Republican Party to what? To win elections. So Steve Bannon came in and like, this is useless. We can't think about that. Because these Republican Party and the Democrat Party, America is like a two-party state system. Therefore, creating a third party, it's a no done deal. We won't win elections. And if you can't create a third party, what do you need? Either you take the Democrat Party or you take which party? The Republican Party. And it's impossible to take the Democrat Party. So which party will they suggest to take? The Republican. Steve Bannon will continue to say Bannon had a better idea. The way Bannon saw it, this is what Bannon saw. There already was a third party. So this is Bannon. There is already a what? A third party. That was the establishment. He hungered to destroy. He said there is already a third what? But there is the Democrats, Mega, who are the third part, the rhinos. And we just need to destroy them. Then neocons, the neoliberals, you know the neocons. We learned them. Yeah, those are the George Bush. They are the neocons. Yeah, the Mitt Romney. They are the neocons. The neocons, the neoliberals, big donors, the globalists, the Wall Streets, the corporates, elites. He sometimes called them the Uniparty because they were the only ones who ever got power. No matter whether Democrats or Republicans won elections. So he's going to say there is this third party, which is like the neocons, a combination of the neocons, neoliberals, the globalists, the elites, or the establishment. Whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats who wins power, it always comes from who? These ones. And was saying, these are the ones we need to deal with them. This formulation was not entirely wrong-headed to the extent that the structure of having two pluralistic big tent parties pushed them both towards the center, producing a measure of stability and continuity. And he's going to say this, and the writer is saying this was not, it was not merely wrong. The same way those parties are organized, how the Republican Party was organized, there's the neocon there, the whatever and whatever, even the Democrat Party. It's what made that even if it's a Republican who is a president, still the party would be on the center. It won't go far right, it will be where? On the center. Even on the Democrats, even if it's a Democrat, it will still be on the what? Center left, not the far. The writer is saying there was that balance. Yeah. And nor was Bannon baseless in believing that this stasis could produce bad outcomes, particularly in foreign affairs. The domain of the so-called Washington blob. Outside the Uniparty, as Bannon saw it, there was the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which he considered a relatively small slice of the electorate. So Bannon is going to, Bannon is so intelligent, he's going to say, like, that Uniparty is those, the centrists on the Republican and on the Democrats. Like, we have seen them. If it's on foreign policy, it doesn't matter who you put there. You put George Bush. George Bush, what is George Bush going to do? He's going to intervene in countries. Yeah. If you had to put Mitt Romney there as a president, Mitt Romney won't support Russia, would actually even advocate for funding Ukraine to fight war, Russia. You remove Mitt Romney, you put Biden or Obama. They're going to do the what? The same thing. So and that is where I think Elder Chase was saying, the neocon, the conservatives there, the neocon, and those centrist Democrats on foreign policy, they what? They meet. And Steve Bannon is also seeing the same thing that we are seeing in the movement, that is the case. Therefore, with those people in power, it doesn't matter who is in power. If it's a Republican, a Democrat, they are going to do the what? The same thing. That is what Steve Bannon is saying. When you recognize something, that the only group which is not part of them, on the Democrats, it's the progressive, the Ben Sanders, and who? Alexander Cortez, he says, on the Democrats, that is the only ones who are not part of that third party, the Uni Party. And he looks at them and he says, there is no way they can rule because their voting base is what? Is small. Yeah. Then he's going to say, and the rest of the vast majority of the country was mega. He's going to take note that there is this party, which is the Uni Party, made up of people across all what? Political parties, and it's them who have been ruling America. Even when you see a Republican, Steve Bannon is saying, don't rejoice. That Republican is coming from the third party, that Uni Party. His ideology on foreign policy is always the same as that one of the Obamas when they come in power. You are going to see the what? The same thing. But their people are different. And he's going to say there is a second part, which is the Progressive Democrats. And they don't have a large voting base. Then he's going to say, and where is the other party? Is the mega. And when he looks at the rest of America, he sees them as what? Mega. Yeah. Bannon believed the mega movement, if it could break out of being suppressed and marginalized by the establishment, represented a dominant coalition that could rule for 100 years. Yeah. I think, Bannon is very interesting because what he sees and once he works on it is what happens. Yeah, these are not, like mere people. These are people. I think when you saw Elder Paminda said we are not supposed to be observers of prophecy. We need to be what? Participant. What does Bannon believe in? Bannon believes that you don't have to see history is happening. You need to what? Write. To be party of those people who are writing what? History. Yeah, he's a very, very good strategist on the mega movement. So let me show you what he's saying. Like I'll write it somewhere. So Bannon is saying there are actually three parts, political parties in America. So there's one, this party, it's calling it let's say the progressive. Progressive left. And which person can we put here? Ben Sanders. So it's Sanders. And this part represents certain Americans who vote for them, isn't it? Then it's going to say there is the second part. The second part is not going to say it's the Republican or the Democrats. It's going to say it's a uni party. The uni party. The uni party. This party is made up of who? The uni party is going to say those Republicans, neocons, and who? The centralist Democrats. So this is the party which is, who are we going to pick? Who pick Biden and who? Bush. Yes, those are the symbols. So we are picking Biden Biden is the same stream. The Clintons, the Obamas, they are getting the point. The Nancy Pelosi, it's the same team. So we have Biden. Biden and the Bush. Bush, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, it's the same team. You're getting the point. You know, Mitt Romney is the one who was contesting for presidency in 2012, who lost to Obama. Then he's going to say there is a third party. All right, it is. The third. What is the third? Mega. Eh? Maybe that is. Maybe I say the mega. The mega. And the mega, you're talking of who? Trump. I think you remember what is noticing is what the midnight cry, those, is it Vespa classes explained to us? They explained that the Bidens and the Bush, neocon and neoliberal, they what? They meet, especially on what? Foreign policy. Whoever you elect on foreign policy, whether is the Bushes or the Bidens, you're going to get the same what? Outcome. Though they differ in what motivates them. You are getting the point. Yeah, but you get the same outcome. And this is what Bannon is saying. And Bannon is saying, who has been ruling America? It's only one party. The Uni. And he says the globalists, they are part of this. The elites, they are part of this. This is the establishment. And you can see that the Vespa classes, they tried to show us that the mega and the progressive liberals, they also meet. You remember? They meet because you would see that they are isolationists. The mega, the paleo, and the progressive left, the far left, they are what? Isolationists. You remember? Now, to my interest, Steve Bannon also can see that and see that the Uni Party, which is made of the Bidens, the Bushes, crosses the parties. And they are the same. Then he says the only ones who are different, the progressives left, which are the far left. And he says, but their voting base is what? Small. And he says the mega is the other party now. And this mega, he says, the rest of the Americans, they are in the mega. If only the Uni Party would stop restraining the mega can rule America for 100 what? Yes. And the Uni Party who are restraining the mega, who are they? The Democrats who are stealing the what? The elections. And the Republicans, the rhinos, who are preventing the megas from taking the election. They are the ones who are suppressing the mega. So you can see that who has been suppressing the mega is this so-called Uni Party by Steve Bannon. But when you think of the Republican Party, it's the Bushes who are called the rhinos, the establishment within the Republican Party. They are the ones who have been restraining the what? The mega. And Steve Bannon can see that. So with me, it was so interesting that Bannon can see what the Vespa classes was saying. It is so interesting. Yeah, it is so interesting. Yeah, so that is what Bannon saw. I think we have forgotten about him, but he's wise. Yeah, he's not like a small brain. Yeah, he's a guru, like you would say, like if you, those monks, yes, is a guru in this mega movement who can read times and come up with a strategy that suits that time. That is Steve Bannon. There's even another one. I think if you follow the tail, we'll talk about Stephen Miller. He's also another one. Him, it doesn't even come public that much. Yeah. So, so you can see that if the mega is identifying all those Americans who doesn't fall under the category of the uni party on the far left, he sees them, which category do they fall into? It's a mega. But what is the only problem mega is facing, which is preventing them from taking over the USA? The uni party. And this uni party is made up of Republicans and the Democrats, especially the Republicans. So that is Steve Bannon. Yeah, he's so intelligent. Yeah. What's the time? Okay. My time is almost. Let me conclude. So let's read some final. Some final quotations, then we can conclude this up. So Bannon, in his confidence that there were secretly millions of Democrats who were yearning to be mega followers. So that is Bannon. In his confidence that there were secretly millions of Democrats who were yearning to be mega followers and just didn't know it yet. Bannon was again taking inspiration from Offer, who observed that the true believers were prone to conversion from one cause to another, since they were driven more by their need to identify with a mass movement than by any particular ideology. Yeah, you know, if you start to read, there are those they call true believers. Once there is a movement there, the true believers, wherever they are, they will join that movement. Bannon was not like a typical political strategist trying to tinker around the edges of the existing party collision in the hope of inking out 50% plus one. Bannon already told you he wanted to bring everything crashing down. He wanted to completely dismantle and redefine the parties. He wanted a showdown between a globalist elite party called the Democrats and a populist mega party called the Republicans. In that matchup, he was sure the Republicans would win every time. You see now how to put the Patriot Party idea in its place and harness the mega movement through the Republican Party where it belonged. So Bannon came up with the idea. Bannon saw that if the Republican Party is still with the the rhinos, what will be happening is people will be thinking they are voting for the Republican Party, but they are voting for the Uni Party. And Bannon said, that is not right. We need to redefine American politics, where the Republican Party, if it is fully taken by the mega, now those elections, what will happen to the rhinos if they are kicked away from the Republican Party? They are going to join which party? The Democrat. We saw, isn't it what happened during the 2024 elections? Yes, he knew we kick them out, they'll join the Democrat. Meaning now, that uni party is no longer like having a base in the what? Republican. They are now fully what? United. Now, the elections in America, they will just be between two. The mega Republican and the globalist Democrat. And Bannon knew that most Americans are what? Conservatives. And the conservatives will be forced to choose either globalist or what? Or mega. There is no any option now within the Republican Party where those conservatives who don't like mega, they will say, we'll vote for the Nikki Haley, the Bushes within the Republican. No, that option, only two. And he knew that once they are just two completely, most Americans are conservatives. And to Bannon said, we'll never lose what? Elections. That is what Bannon was thinking. Then, how can they now make a party like that? And Bannon was like, okay, we have to take the Republican Party. Bannon had just the man how to take the Republican Party. Bannon had just the man for the job. Someone he had known for years, someone who used to blog for him back at Breitbart. His name was Dan Scholz, and his time had come. The one who is going to now effectively transform the Republican Party, that man was already there. It's done because he had a strategy through which the mega movement can take over the Republican, and that strategy was the Princict strategy. Yeah. And this man is from the Oath Keepers. You remember those, the Vespa classes, the far right, Oath Keepers. That's Dan. And Dan started that work with the Tea Party in 2013, 2014 is there. You remember, I think Elder Terry touched him in our classes. You remember, eh? Yes. Yeah. So, and that person is there. Already the plan is there. Or the path is there. The path is to transform the Republican Party into a mega party so that the elections are not like the uni party which has been winning elections throughout, according to Steve Bannon. Why that uni party? You know, if you followed the presentation of Elder Terry where she was tracing the political system in America, those two-party system, it has already been there. It's not only one party which has been preventing the dragon from rising in the USA. It's both what? Parties. You'd find in this time is this party, in the other time is that party. Steve Bannon is the thing that Steve Bannon is recognizing as the uni what? Uni party. And now his job, he's saying, let's deal with the Republican Party. And how to do it, there is already a person there with a strategy, Dan Scholz. It's the one who's going to come with the Princict strategy. Yeah. So this quote now continues, it says, now that time had finally come in February of 2021 on the cusp of the Senate impeachment trial, with Trump accused of inciting the mob that sacked the Capitol. Dan reappeared on the War Room, having gotten a haircut and wearing a big white button that said PC Precinct Committee. Dan Bannon said on the air, The floor is yours. Take it and tell the people you're about to offer a course of personal political empowerment. How do they do it, Dan? It's real simple, and most people learn this, at least I did, back in the late 60s in 70th grade social studies in civic class. Dan began. Essentially, what we have to do is we conservatives have to take over one of the major political parties. The solution, we conservatives, should we create another party? No, let's take over what? One of the political parties. Our party is the one we have been using, is the Republican Party. 2021. What are they saying? Let's take the Republican Party. The problem is we are not in control of it. And the reason we are not in control of it, it is where we are not of it is where we are not in it. You asked me before I came on, what group are you promoting? And the group I am promoting is the Republican Party. But you are not in the party unless you are of these. See, I have got my PC button on, precinct committee man. Precinct commitment are the party. Dan asked Bannon to put up a slide showing the structure of the party organization. It's a pyramid, Bannon offered. And this is the base of the pyramid. The precinct committee is the base of the what? Pyramid. Dan explained all the powers of precinct committee members and all the open slots that were there for the taking. So Dan explained this is the power, and the vacancies on this committee are these. Then he explained the key thing is you elect everybody. He explained you are going to get to elect your county chairman directly. So it's through the precinct committee where you elect the county chairman directly. You are going to elect the officers of your local committee directly. You are going to elect state committeemen who directly elect the state chairman. You can run for delegate. You know the delegates? Yes, from the committee, precinct committee. The delegates elect the national convention delegates directly. And then they also elect the national committeemen and committee women on the Republican National Convention. That's real political power. We can take over the party if we invade it. Dan said, I've told people this since 2009. I can't guarantee you that we will save the republic, but I can guarantee you this, we'll lose it if we conservatives don't take over the Republican Party. We are going to lose our republic. That's done. This is the plan. Let's take over the Republican from what? Autumn 2021. That's what is happening. Bannon will respond now. Okay, Dan, hang on 1 second. Bannon interrupted. Here's the key. You don't need to talk about third parties. It will cost $1 billion. It will never gonna go anywhere. You got the ability, everybody out there, and it's going to cost you a dime. Everybody saying, I need to know what to do. This is an actionable item. So Bannon turns to the mega supporters. You are saying, what are we going to do? Here is the what? Here's what we are supposed to do. What Dan was offering was so pure, so simple, 7th grade civics. Bannon knew there was a hunger out there for that. It reminded him of the rare raw political talent he recognized in Alexander Cortez, the young Democratic Congresswoman from New York, when she used to stream herself cooking on Instagram Live and take questions from her followers on the political process. As if explaining mundane, basic civics were like sharing an intimate secret. For a lot of people, it was. Americans were suffering from a breakdown of community bonds. What Bannon had read the political scientist Robert Putnam in his influential 2000 study, Bowling Alone, called a decline of society capital. They voted less, attended fewer rallies and speeches, volunteered less, went to church less, didn't attend town meetings, didn't serve as officers and committee members in the local clubs and organization, didn't belong to PTAs and uniform anymore, had fewer bridge clubs and card games and picnics and dinner parties. Instead, they spent more time watching TV and on the internet. So Bannon explained that if you want to know the decline of a society, people who don't involve themselves in government things, schooling, where do they spend much time? TV and what? Internet. You know, this is a Sandalo movement advocating why they fail. They don't what? Involve themselves much in the movement affairs. Where do they spend time? Internet and TV. Do you remember that it's during this time period? What was the movement saying? The same thing. Modern gurus. People now, they are not participating. They're interested in their own things due to the printing strategy could help restore that missing connective tissue. Bannon wanted these listeners to get out and go to the meeting. One meeting would lead to another. There was already a structure, an organization, a hierarchy. Bannon didn't have to build this or coordinate it. If he just got people in the door, the existing organization would take over on its own momentum. Someday soon, people would come up to Bannon and thank him for changing their lives. So people came in. Thank you, Bannon. You have what? You have revived us. We have found a purpose in life to protect our republic. What are we supposed to do? Go to the meetings, join the what? The committees. They would tell him they were so depressed after January 6th and he had given them hope. All he would done was sit there and tell them, you are not alone. We got this. Start meeting some people that are taking action. Here's where I want. Bannon said now, I want everybody to pound in right now to Dan Cho's information. This guy has been saying this. It's now time to do it. Stop talking about the third party. Your opportunity to take over the Republican Party is all about your agents. That's what Cho's keep saying. This is all about you. This is all about your agents. If all the unwashed masses in the mega movement, the deplorables, we've got many more than 400,000 people that listen to this site. We have got 34 million downloads on the podcast, one of the biggest shows in the world. I want people pounding into Dan Cho's today, right now. This is your call to action. Yeah, that was my last quote. So we can see that, and all that is in 2021. What's the call in 2021? The call that Steve Bannon is doing is that the mega movements needs to take over the what? The political party. If you continue studying this, you will find that once Bannon did that call, those Republicans who are in charge of those committees, appointing people in those committees, they are shocked. For a moment, to receive a lot of people in each state who want to start a job as committee people. Now, what shocked them is within those committees, there were already those moderate conservatives like the rhinos. The people they were receiving who wanted now to start the jobs, it's the mega. Who only know that we are here to have this job and take over the Republican Party. And what they started doing once they were elected is trying to page from the bottom. Even that leader who is there, Now they have the numbers. They could vote and remove that leader who is a rhino. Remove. And the lot started losing. And that is how the Republicans started getting power from the bottom. So all this work started in 2021. This is now, the book says, finishing what we started. This is the page started in 2014, but this phase is the final. This is the final page. Final page. Of the Republican Party by the MEGA. And this is the 2021. And this is precinct strategy. It stayed the success of the political party is from where? The bottom. And in January, the presentation that Elder Paminda was doing, which started in December, end of December and beginning of January. Paminda, what was Elder Paminda talking about? Organization. What was he saying? The success of the work, is it from the top? It's from all. The base of the movement. And the base of the movement, Elder Paminda and Elder Test, they called that the middle management, middle managers. And the precinct committees are the middle managers, the direct contact between the party and the voting bloc. It's those ones. And that is the mid-management. So the same direction the movement is going, that is the same direction the MEGA is also going, because these two movements, they are the same, and they are movement of success. One for God, the other one for Satan. The other one is the Sunday Law movement, which is the MEGA. Then also, it's also interesting to see that Steve Bannon understands prophecy. I mean events. The same way we what? We understand. Yes, because for that movement to be a movement of success, it shows that they understand events, read events, and know what they are supposed to do. I've shown an example how he understands what we are studying in the Vesper classes of the unity between some Republicans, the certain faction of Republicans and Democrats. And he calls them, that is the Shuni Party, the globalists. Then you have the progressive left who oppose globalism, we learned. And they are the MEGA who oppose what? Globalism. But he says those progressive lefts, they don't have votes. They represent a few, but the rest of Americans, they are conservatives. And if only MEGA movement, these stop to restrain MEGA movement, the Uni Party, and the Uni Party is some Democrats and some what? Some Republicans. Yeah. So this is what happens in 2021. So how is January 6? January 6 is very important for the MEGA movement because it's what showed them that they don't control the party complete and they are not in charge of the party, and it mobilized and energized them to do the final work, which is paging, the final paging of the Republican Party, which started in 2021. In 2021. And that is what January 6 is to the Sunday Law movement, because the Sunday Law movement is not with the Democrats. And also, it's important to say that in 2021, to prevent the Sunday Law movement from taking over, who did that? Republicans, the rhinos. Yeah. And the strategy that the MEGA came up with to take over the Republican Party was dealing with who? The rhinos. Complete remove of the rhinos. Yeah. And that is so interesting. Once you see that, January 6th, and everything that we have covered here, it's a window to the what? The Sunday Law. So once you see that, you need to follow that story. That is the agitation. You need to follow that story. And what you expect that the Sunday Law is, yes, this is what you expect that the Sunday Law, or what will mark to be the Sunday Law. This work that started here, January 6th, yeah, you are not going to expect a coup. No. With the Sunday Law movement, if you follow the Sunday Law movement here, you are going to see the complete removal of all the rhinos from the Republican Party. And the Republican Party you are going to see at the Sunday Law is not the party that you know. It's now MEGA has found itself a what? A political party, which it controls complete. And that is what you expect to see at the Sunday Law WEMAC. At the Sunday Law WEMAC. Is this work? Yeah, and that is the agitation we are supposed to take notice, this one, and follow how the events are going. By the time you reach at the Sunday Law, the Republican Party is fallen. It's fallen. No rhinos. It is no longer the party that restrained the what? The MEGA. Are we getting the point? Yeah. So that is my conclusion. So here, at this National Sunday Law, the WEMAC, you have, this is the 4 of the Republican Party. This is the complete removal of the rhinos. Complete removal of the rhinos. Of the rhinos. And what else? The MEGA movement, the MEGA church is in charge of the what? The Republican Party. So the MEGA movement in control of the party. The MEGA movement is in control of the party. And once you see that, yeah, that is now the Sunday Law movement is ready. Yeah, no restraints. Yeah, and what led to that is January 6th. This is what leads to that. In the words of the writer Steve Bannon, turned a defeat into a what? A victory. What victory is the complete takeover of the what? The Republican Party. This is victory. This is victory. This is why when it comes to the 2024 elections, you are going to see the rhinos, who did they support? Trump or Kamala? They supported Kamala because they are out of the party. Yeah, they are out of the party. Then also, if you check a quotation, there's someone, an observer, who observed that during the Republican National Convention, that is the only time, the only convention where the established Republicans, the rhinos, didn't participate because they were paged out. So this is the victory for the mega. Yeah, the mega fully takes over an institution, the Republican Party, which in other languages, you call that model the what? That is the image. Because that's a Sandalo movement. It has everything. That is the image. The image of the beast. Or in other studies, you call that as the dragon. And it's this now. Once it's that, you know, that's a Sandalo. Yeah. And this movement, when it's like this is the movement which is going to contest even the 2024 elections. You see it participating in election. This is a different Republican Party. This is the mega party, the dragon. The Republicans, the party that was restraining, is fallen at a Sandalo. It's fallen. And in 2024 elections, it's participating. This is a different thing. It's not the party that you know, it's different thing. This is the mega party. And this is the work that they started in 2014 is complete, the paging. And the catalyst for that work, which actually like energized them, is January 6th. For me, I believe, I'm ready to be corrected, but I believe this is how the Lord desired us to see 2021, January 6th. Not the January 6th, like, you know, like they tried to take power by force. Then Sandalo, they are going to take power by force. I don't think so. But this is the agitation that we're supposed to see and follow. Yeah. So whichever the Sandalo is, this is the theme. Yeah, this is the theme, I think so. I think I'll end here. Yeah, I'm not going to put a date. Yeah, I think it's clear. You just have to go and check, where do you see these things taking place? And it's the Republican Party, which is the subject. A question? If there's a question, contribution, I can respond to that. Say a question, a contribution, over time. Easy. Eh? Oh, it's a mega. So someone is asking, how did the mega start? Okay, if we look at the ideology of the mega, you can see it's there from the inception of the US. It's there. But all these parties, what they have been doing is restraining that. Yeah. And in 1989, it's there that we can see, if we follow history, that that ideology is there. But no Republican Party embraced it fully. Like, then the only one, even the candidate that embraces fully, is Donald Trump. Embrace that ideology as the identity of his political career and all that. Yeah, and the code themselves, make America great again. Yeah, but that ideology has been there throughout the USA from its inception, but it was being suppressed by the political parties and all that. Yeah, and 1989 is already there. But when we have Trump coming up, he's fully embraced that ideology. And from there, it took a different turn. And right now, when we are talking now, that movement has even managed to, the ideology, take over the entire Republican. But what we see in the past histories is that would come up and fall, like restrained, come restrained. But now it's like success. Mm. Yeah. So it's longer. Yeah. Others who have questions? It's a question.
Question.
Okay.
Right
Mm.
right side opening after 1 minute, the media person like yeah, line up.
And rhinos is just a phrase these mega gave to Republicans who are not fully supporting the mega ideology. Then they mock them, calling them rhinos. Yeah.
So, open and predict the limited cultural and some globally given this.
Okay. So the question is, if this is the national Sunday law on the big line, what about global? Anyway, they are already presentation. The global is the clause of probation. That is where, yeah, I think we all know this may get the Sunday law takes over the Republican Party, then continues to conquer even now the entire country. And the entire country completely, that work, they are even doing that. They are not in control of everything. This is why they are transforming the USA. At the COP, the USA is fully absorbed in the world now is also taken. And that absorption of the world continues from the COP down Second Advent there. Yeah. But the national worldwide is at a COP. Yeah. In Daniel 11, it's the glorious land first, then Egypt and the rest of the countries. Mhm. Yeah. I think I'll end here. Those with questions, you can get back to me. And I will upload the presentation. You can revisit it. Yeah. Let's pray. We say thank you, Lord, for being with us for this discussion and to help us understand what 2021 is and how that can show us what the Sunday Law Waymark looks like. We count it as a blessing, Lord, and bless us as a movement here in Zambia and Botswana. and the rest of the world. Thank you for the Sabbath you gave us. We count it as a blessing. This is our humble prayer. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Lord. Lord.